The United States just published its national security strategy, and in it, we got a very small snippet of what America's strategy is going forward for Africa. Now, for some quick background, the national security strategy lays America's foreign policy strategy for different parts of the globe. A lot of the document ends up always being propaganda, but we do also actually get some genuine insights on what America plans on doing across the world. Now, the part about Africa, this was actually buried at the very end. This itself is a propaganda tool because it was trying to make it seem like, the United States doesn't really care about Africa, that Africa should just be at the end of this document. But in reality, the United States cares a lot about Africa. Of course, it's always there trying to destabilize it so it can get access to its gold, oil, and rare earth minerals. And we see this in this report because this report actually very bluntly says that America's plans is to pretty much grab as much resources from Africa as it can. Let me provide two quotes from this report. First, it says, quote, that America wants to harness Africa's abundant natural resources, end quote. And a more lengthy section that says the following: immediate area for U.S. investment in Africa with prospects for a good return on investment include the energy sector and critical mineral development. Now, the section about Africa also opens with this weird part about criticizing America's spread of liberal ideology in Africa. This is a very Trumpian thing to talk about. And this is also complete nonsense because, of course, America doesn't really care about any ideological aspects in Africa other than securing as much resources as possible. Now, the report also advocates for moving away from aid towards investment, and I believe this is a response to China, which is the largest investor in Africa. Now, if this was indeed the case that the United States was going to move away from aid to investment, I would otherwise think that's great because aid doesn't actually help Africa. What it does do is it helps to prop up neo-colonial governments. But when the United States is talking about investment, what they're really talking about is developing infrastructure to more quickly extract resources from Africa, making America rich and Africa poor. Now, finally, there is also a discussion about negotiating for peace in places like Congo and Sudan. This is also a complete lie because, of course, America, either directly or through allies like the United Arab Emirates, has destabilized these places. We also see in this report the following, which I want to quote, "We must remain wary of resurgent Islamist terrorist activity in parts of Africa." End quote. So in other words, what we're seeing here is, the war on terror continuing with, of course, America continuing to attack Muslim areas of Africa like Somalia and, of course, the Arab states. So in other words, what we're seeing here in the African policy is a continuation of extracting resources, a more blunt admission to not caring about democracy or human rights and just wanting to do this. And of course, though, the good news is that Africans are always trying to resist these efforts from the West. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. We're curious to hear from you. Thanks.